Okay, everybody take a breath and calm down, because if we do that now, by the time we get to the end of the video, there won't be any more rage. You're not going to agree with any of the things that are about to come out of my mouth, because the idea of the greatest match of the year so far is always going to be personal to you. These are just ones that I and the What Culture team have come together to choose. But my name is Simon from What Culture. Thanks very much for watching. Look at me just prepping myself. And yes, this, according to me and some other people, are the 10 best wrestling matches of 2020 so far. I can smell pissed off fans. Number 10, the greatest wrestling match ever from WWE Backlash. Oh, the irony. Maybe, I don't actually know. This could be one of those situations where it's like Alanis Morissette irony, where she's all like, oh, I need a spoon, but all I've got is a knife, or vice versa, which doesn't even make any sense. If you want a knife, but you have a bunch of spoons, well, you can spread with a spoon, or if you're trying to cut, just put some effort into it, damn it. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, the greatest wrestling match ever, well, it was great. I mean, it didn't live up to what the name suggested, but in terms of a really good professional wrestling match that you could get into as a fan and kind of, was a bit old school, a bit traditional, well, I thought it absolutely kicked ass. It went almost 50 minutes, Edge was selling things like he worked at Gap, and Randy Orton's just transformation in 2020 has been absolutely brilliant. He does come across like a man who's listening to voices in his head, and those voices are saying, be crazy, Randy. He's like, okay. The ending also rocked, because after this absolute war, Randy Orton spat in the face of what this challenge was meant to be, cheated by hitting Edge in the balls. He then kicked him in the head and got that victory he so desperately needed. And sure, there was some nonsense in here like rock bottoms and pedigrees, but it's 2020. You come up with one match in 2020 that wasn't full of gaga because of everything going on in the world. That's just the case, and we just got to accept it, which I did. I liked it. Number 9, Nyla Rose versus Rhea from Dynamite. This was all about the story, and if you watch any of my videos, you know I like the planting of seeds, and I like the story. Coming from the February 12th episode of AEW Dynamite, meaning it has fans, which now feels like an absolute riot, it feels like an absolute novelty, this was just two people elevating their game and giving us all something to cheer about. Because despite being a constant success in the promotion, and at the time the AEW Women's Champion, Rhea is just so good at making you believe, I am really small, this person is really big, uh-oh, I'm in trouble, what the hell I'm going to do. Plus you have loads of sympathy for her, and really, that's all a babyface needs. If you're invested in her emotionally, you're just gonna hope she wins. To counter all of that then, Rhea had to be really smart in her offense, which she was, including at one point just sliding across a table and kneeing Nyla right in the face. It was the classic David versus Goliath, although All Elite Wrestling had actually planned a different end. It was almost like they were looking into the future too, because Nyla Rose did win. She did get the championship, so next time you do see Rhea in the ring against a monster, you'll be like, oh no, she always struggles against these kind of people, but when she actually does win, oh my gosh, it's gonna rock. Throw in that the title did indeed change hands on free television, as we just mentioned, and to me this was a window into an improving AEW women's division, which continues to get better week by week. That one guy is now saying I'm wrong, but he says I'm wrong about everything, I still love you. Number 8, Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles from WWE SmackDown. This was important on many different levels. Now, for one, it was two of WWE's best duking it out, but also because they were duking it out for the Intercontinental title, a championship that every fan and their dog has said, would you please just make it important and try and make it legitimate once again? Well, Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles cared so much about it, and it was for said belt, that all of it came together to form a lovely cupcake that you wanted to eat. The fact the pair were kicking the crap out of each other too certainly didn't hurt either, because Daniel Bryan was going after Styles' arm, you would presume, to try and negate that phenomenal forearm. So AJ's like, all right, if you're gonna go after my arm, I'm gonna try and break your leg. And that's what he did. Well, not literally, but he was trying. It just brought some happiness back into the wrestling world come June, and the finish once again was absolutely excellent, because AJ basically caught Daniel in midair, gave him the Stars Clash, gave him the phenomenal forearm, he got the 1, 2, 3, and now he was your IC champion. And when you've got a guy that can have a good match with anyone as your IC champion, well, it makes this bald asshole happy. No more debate either. I mean this, I'm serious. Both of these dudes are all-timers. No matter what companies they've been in, They're just so damn good. Number 7, the 2020 Royal Rumble match. It's all about that narrative again, and I have no qualms in saying that this is one of the best Rumble matches we've had in years. And it was kind of divided up into 2 separate parts, but both parts kicked ass. And we shall start with part 1, also known as the Brock Lesnar show, because Lesnar and Heyman had decided, despite being the champion, that they were going to enter the Royal Rumble match, beat everybody up, and therefore wouldn't have to appear at WrestleMania because everybody else sucked, and also, and more importantly, they couldn't be bothered. What a couple of assholes. Now, no one actually believed that that was going to happen, but then again, it was Brock. And think of some of the things we've seen. He proved all of this true too by surviving wave after wave of WWE superstar. You even had callbacks with the likes of Rey Mysterio and Dominic, and brand new exciting encounters when Keith Lee got in there and was all like, oh, I'll take you on, Brock. And Brock was like, yeah, let's do it. It also meant that whoever was going to eliminate Mr. Suplex City was about to go right to the top. And boy, howdy was that true. While the plan at one stage was to have Drew McIntyre do away with Brock Lesnar but have Roman Reigns win the overall thing, everybody scrapped that plan at the last minute, and thank goodness they did, which meant the Scottish psychopath not only Claymore kicked the beast out the ring, but he went on to claim his first ever Royal Rumble victory and become one of the best characters in the whole damn company. The audience lost their minds, which was the complete opposite of what had happened 5 years ago, and let's not forget that you also had the surprise return of Edge. If you like some emotion thrown right into your face amongst 30 wrestlers walking down to a ring, you need to watch it, and you need to watch it now. Number 6, Jon Moxley versus Suzuki from New Japan's New Beginning. If you knew the characters of both Jon Moxley and Suzuki, as soon as this was announced, you lost your mind a little bit, because both guys were absolute lions, and you knew they weren't going to hold back. And surprise, surprise, as soon as they heard ding, 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 they actually tried to kill each other, or at least that's how it seemed. Or in short, they beat the living shit out of each other, and this was so aggressive and so violent and just so nuts. I know a few people, myself being included, that just for a second were like, have they forgotten that all of this is a work? Or have they just decided they don't care? And it was made even better because it was all surrounded by the US title hanging in the background. Both guys smashed out lariats like they wanted a decapitation on their records, and the fact they both smiled afterwards meant that we weren't in Toto anymore, Kansas. I mean, if you like your wrestling to just come from a different dimension, you need to go watch this. It was also like the final transition from the former Dean Ambrose into Jon Moxley, and I swear, when I see these two characters now, it's like they were played by a different person. This went on to live up to and maybe even exceed expectations, and it's just so nuts. Fair play to them both. Number 5, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page versus the Lucha Brothers from AEW Dynamite. Back to February 2020 once again, which leads me to believe that AEW actually had a heads up about what was around the corner, so just booked all these big matches as soon as possible. I will also throw in the caveat here that yes, I know, I understand, some people don't like these kind of tag team matches. Okay, why do I care? Why do you care? You're probably eating a Bounty bar right now, and I will tell you, I don't like coconut, therefore I'm not going to eat one, but I'm happy you're enjoying yours. Just competing at a frantic pace that only a few people would have been able to keep up with, the really cool aspect to this was that Kenny Omega was getting his ass kicked and it looked like impending doom. Hangman Page was on the apron losing his mind because he just wanted to get in there, and Pentagon and Phoenix just kept coming up with these inventive moves that I'd never even seen before because I think they're from the future. And it was the Cowboy that had to make the save and get the win for his team, which just tied in perfectly to the narrative, which was that he didn't feel appreciated even though it was his skills that kept getting them the wins. It's a huge shame the pandemic did come so soon afterwards, because I'm just massively intrigued into what AEW was going to do with Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. And now thankfully I think we're going to get that conclusion, but we had to wait too many months for it. But either way, this tag match is fabu. Number 4, Kenny Omega versus Pac from AEW Dynamite. Remember what we said before? Because we're back to February 2020, I think AEW knew why else would they be booking pay-per-view like Iron Man matches on their television show. Exactly. It's also somewhat historic, as it featured one of, if not the first, disqualifications, I hope my memory has got that right, that we'd seen in the company, and that meant a big deal. Because after these two had thrown the word build out the window and just gone crazy from second one, Pac got annoyed with all of this and went, screw it, and he hit Kenny Omega with a steel chair. And sure, it meant that he was now down a fall, but that little bastard then used Kenny's injuries to get the upper hand, and it just made it all so smart. And I know this is a tried and tested twisted technique in the Iron Man match, that doesn't mean the execution doesn't count for something, and it was executed so well here, I loved it. The finish was also a mix of pace and terror as they just went so damn fast I thought one of them was gonna die, and Kenny Omega continued to prove he is one of the best wrestlers in the world, even though again there's a small part of the internet that doesn't think he either. And Pac is right behind him too, by the way. I would watch these two wrestle every single day of the week. Number 3, the Boneyard match from WrestleMania 36. So this wasn't really a wrestling match, but it all depends on how you want to view wrestling. For me, sports entertainment, or whatever the hell you want to call it, should always be about creativity and what you do when your back is up against the wall, and I don't think WWE could have done any better than this. And sure, we all wanted to see if AJ Styles could pull out one more classic from The Undertaker in a traditional setting, but given the circumstances at the time, I think the Boneyard match was the best possible thing they could have done, and may be the perfect and fitting end for the legend of the Dead Man. If you've watched the Last Ride documentary too, you know how much work and how much effort got put into this, and it did the unthinkable and made The Undertaker cool again. I mean, he was part Dead Man and part Phenom and part American Badass and part Mark Calloway. It was just a coming together of every single persona he's ever played, and I thought he did great. So it was a nod to his entire career, which means it carries even more weight if it is his retirement match. And what a final shot to exit on. Getting on your motorbike and just driving off into the distance. I mean, the big question is, where did he go? Styles did his job brilliantly too, as did Gallows and Anderson, and it was so well received, many fans have now said, why don't we just do this once a year? That is a success, and I'm with them. I would be up for many, many more. Hell, I'd even be in one, even though it doesn't make any sense. Number 2, the Stadium Stampede from AEW Double or Nothing. And following on from that, it is of course AEW Stadium Stampede. Now, if you want to switch these two around, you can. I think they're equally as good as each other, because once again, it shows a company using their brain, being really original, and giving us something that maybe in a different universe, in a different timeline, we would have never got. And that to me sounds like crap. More like 22 stories than one big one. This just jumped around from guys in the Inner Circle and the Elite and let you know what the hell they were doing at any given time. I mean, we saw Chris Jericho giving a Judas effect to a football mascot. Hangman Page at one point just gave up and went and got drunk. And Matt Hardy, I think, had around about 622 different personas. And that's before we even get onto Sammy Guevara, who basically spent the whole thing trying to run away and save his life, because everybody wanted him dead. A fantastic way for you to take your minds off the world's problems. You even had the returning Young Bucks, whose first plan of action was to climb up something really tall and dive onto their opponents. It was so high, Matt Jackson even hurt his ribs. The finish was also as mad, as Kenny Omega probably did his most devastating one-wing angel, or at least I've never seen a worse one. And I get it, this isn't everybody's cup of tea, but again, the Bounty Bar, we've already discussed it. This brought me so much joy, is a 10 out of 10. Number 1, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page versus the Young Bucks from AEW Revolution. Sometimes you've just got to hold your hands up and go, okay. Even if you didn't like this match, and by the way, I really did, when after the fact you hear a bunch of people coming out and going, I think that may be one of the best tag team bouts I've ever seen in my life, well, you gotta pay some attention to it. And I get the hyperbole is thrown around in the modern day more than ever, but sometimes you had to listen, and there was a lot of shouting going on. And don't just think this was move either. I mean, it was that, but there was also yet more story and narrative here that just tied everything together, because not only was Kenny Omega struggling after being brutalized by Pac the week prior, but again, you had everything going on with the Cowboy with Hangman Page. The Young Bucks and Omega wanted to keep this on the up and up and as a sporting contest, but Hangman was having none of that. He didn't feel like he was being respected, so he was gonna do whatever the hell he had to prove, well, you may not think I'm any good, but me and my mum, we think I'm brilliant. Matt and Nick Jackson even got under Omega's skin by hitting him with the golden trigger, and that sent him wild and sent fans wild too, because what a lovely callback that was. And even though Omega and Hangman Page did retain the titles, that almost felt redundant after the fact, because this just set the bar so flippin' high. AEW had once again proven that they gave a massive hoot about tag team wrestling, and as such it reignited my own passion for four guys being in the ring. If you are yet to see this match, you know what I'm going to say. Go and right this wrong, I promise. you'll have a good time. Now, of course, there's other matches that you want to mention. Make sure you go in those comments right now and let me know and call me a jackass at the same time. It's all good, I'm used to it. Then like the video, share the video, smash that subscribe button, head over to whatculture.com. You can read yourself some articles. Go and follow What Culture on Twitter, What Culture WWE. Stay up to date with this wrestling madness. And you're already here. You're on YouTube. Watch more videos on What Culture Wrestling. My name is Simon from What Culture. Thank you as always for entertaining me, and hopefully I've entertained you. I will see you soon.